But keep in mind, it's just
Wow.
1 month.
Alexandria might have had a good month. I wonder how many deals there were.
That's the city of Alexandria, so there's a lot more of Alexandria within Fairfax County, right? That'll have an Alexandria address, but be within Fairfax County. It's just the city of Alexandria, and it's just 1 month, so you got to be careful not to overstate its importance.
Yeah, I mean, I've been watching a lot of the markets like around Kingstown and kind of closer to like Alexandria, Springfield, or more Springfield side, like Burke and whatnot. And I mean, the prices kind of were downturning December, but I feel like since January, I mean, I feel like they plateaued in January and February, and since then they've kind of been creeping up again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and Fairfax County is a big county, so that's going to be a pretty dependable data set, at least comparing just March to March. It's up, a sliver of a percentage on this chart. That's the median value, which would encompass, those areas that you mentioned.
What about if you go down, because I'm looking at, I want to see volume specific for Alexandria. If you go down, closed sales. Oh yeah, closed sales. That's perfect. So yeah, so they had less of if you see closed sales is down 35%. So there's less homes and higher median price.
Well, guess what that suggests. And was it Wes who was making that comment about seeing the stuff in Fairfax?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Nick just points out that the same location, Alexandria, which is 35% down in terms of the number of transactions, the median price is up 27%. So what that probably is first-time home buyer market really, really down. First-time home buyer market really, really down, and bringing the overall number of transactions down. But for what does sell, median prices, flat to up a little, because the more expensive properties were probably moving a little quicker. My best guess, not sure.
Yeah, I mean, some of the investors that I've been talking to that are in Alexandria City and then also in Fairfax, throughout, a lot of them are mostly just doing spec homes at this point and doing work between like 1 to 2.5 mil.
Well, there you go. This downturn, so good. It's interesting when the anecdotal pieces each of us have sort of starts to piece together and show up like something that you can make sense of. The fact is that this downturn has been very hard on the first-time home buyer, because we're talking about the affordability factor changing so much so fast, frankly, faster perhaps than rising prices themselves on monthly payments. The interest rate movement was so much that maybe it was having too much of an impact on monthly payments. And when you go up the pay ladder to the more affluent households, they can exercise discretion to spend money or not. And then less affluent households don't have as much discretion to exercise. So, the relatively wealthy home buyer may not like a 6 or 7% rate, but, they can go, I'll hold my nose and go forward and purchase. And maybe a less affluent buyer is just like, well, that knocks me out of it. Maybe I got to rent for a minute. So there's been a bit more of that as you move down the price ladder. Yeah, I mean, when the downturn was at its worst, I would put that at somewhere around November or December. We were surprised at the resiliency of the more affluent households. Really surprised, and really, really saddened and dismayed for our first-time home buyers.
Yeah.
To really be on
something else that's kind of interesting on that end is when you look at a lot of the banks, especially from their loaning perspective. I mean, FHAs and VA loans and other stuff like that, they're just not winning bids since they're just not as trustworthy. And then a lot of those first home buyers are just not able to even get those loans since the banks are kind of being stingy in who they're giving it to. So of course they're going to give it to the more affluents.
Yep. And the more affluent, the other thing the advantage that they've got is
credit, right?
Better
liquidity and credit.
Sorry, the other thing I was saying was that the other thing that they've got going for them, the more affluent buyers, is they're literally getting better rates. The larger loan amounts have been getting lower interest rates than the smaller loan amounts, which is just sort of adds another thing that makes it harder for the first-time home buyer. But the first-time home buyer is slowly but surely returning because, human nature is that if something happens too fast, too much too fast, it overwhelms you. Like when rates shoot up, in no time at all, human nature also is that after a while you do adjust. So there's that initial shock where you're just stuck and you're just holding your head. And then there's a little later, reluctantly accepting it. And then maybe a little later, like, all right, I'm going to act on this. So for those less affluent first-time homebuyers who could exercise their discretion, maybe, borrow a little bit more or, look to a slightly less expensive type of house, maybe a little smaller, flex a little on size or condition or location, people are coming back because you see this number here, the transactions being down by 29% across the whole metro area, comparing March of 22 to March of 23. That is actually a huge number to be 29% down, but that number was like 39, 45%, in certain jurisdictions at the end of last year, like November and December. Those were some rough numbers. Here you've got some ones that are looking really promising. Prince George's, Frederick, down in the 20s. And by the way, those are big numbers too. To be down 23.3% in Prince George's or 21.5 in Frederick, those are mammoth numbers. But overall, all of them are coming down to the point where when you aggregate them, this 29 number, rough as it sounds, is better than what we were looking at the end of last year. So, I'd say that the market is still a little bit wobbly, but it's on a trajectory where transactions are picking up again. And that's before interest rates have really significantly dropped. I mean, we've had a couple of fits and starts. I want to say mid-January, I remember rates were ticking down a little bit. Oddly enough, 2 weeks ago, the Fed made its recent rate hike of going up 0.25. That same day, rates went down. We can talk a little bit more about that later. So there have been moments where rates dip down a bit, but they're not like massively lower than they were a little while ago. However, what is happening is, and in a very material way, there's a growing consensus that rates are headed down. So there's the terrible storm late last year where rates were high and optimism was rock bottom low. And then you have the moment we're in now where rates are still sort of high. I mean, you might have a friend who grabbed a slightly lower rate recently, but another friend who couldn't get that rate because it slipped back up. So, rates may be a little lower, but they're still pretty high. But the difference now is that people believe rates are headed south, and they believe they're headed materially south. We don't mean a click or two. We mean a point or two. Like some people believe that, at some point within the next year, we'll be in the low fives. Others think we'll be in the high fours. I've heard talk of mid to high fours. So, anything with a 5 in front of it would look pretty nice right now. And if it could be a low fiver, really feeling like a true 5, I think that would make a huge difference for a lot of people. So what's happening right now is that buyers, I think, are getting in the market more on the belief that the rates will drop a little. Take it back to November and December, and Nick and I, we were saying to our friends and family and clients, marry the house and date the rate. And that they were looking at us and going, yeah, how long do I have to date that rate? Okay. Like that rate is not a nice rate. How long am I going to do that? And we were saying, look, not that long. I'll get right back to you. It was feeling very confusing. I think now we can point to a lot of media articles anticipating A, a recession, and B, the response to a recession. What does the Fed do? folks, when we have recessions.
They're supposed to lower rates.
Exactly, Shereen. That's right. So they,
I said supposed to though,
well, yeah, I mean, and now because of their concern
because
about
of the inflation. Yeah.
harder, going to be harder. It's true, and yeah, they're going to get a lot more pressure to drop rates now with fear of inflation, of recession, and this banking, the concern about the banking sector. And you know, it's very important for us to remind you guys. We've talked about this many times, but you know, I'll show you one more time, and then we'll start getting into today's program. But you guys know what happens to real estate value during recessions?
It goes down.
Goes up.
The value goes up during a recession?
Yeah, it does.
Mm.
Yep, it
Okay.
does. So a lot of things go down during a recession. Morale, employment, typically the stock market. But the thing about real estate is it's a little bit counter cyclical, they say, because well, the dropping of interest rates and the fact that it is so interest rate and mortgage dependent as an asset. So this chart here shows recessions from the early 60s through the one that we had at the beginning of the pandemic. It was a very brief recession. A recession is like 2 successive quarters or so, half a year of negative GDP. So GDP, the pie actually shrinks a little rather than does what it normally does, which is grow. If you look at this thing and you go across from left to right, all of the white represents growth, meaning the GDP is growing. We're not in a recession. And all of the gray represents periods where the growth is halted and maybe we're getting a little smaller on a GDP basis. And the gray bars, or the gray lines that are wider, are longer recessions. And the gray lines that are very narrow, like a hair over here in 2020, it was such a short recession, are recessions that lasted less long. But what you basically see is a pattern of just real estate generally going up. And it's not really interrupted. It's not really interrupted by those gray bars. And where it is, like,
But I mean, just
look at this one here. If you look at this recession here, it looks like real estate peaked and it started going down a little bit before the recession, but through the recession, it was going up. It looks like in this one, the recession was a bit longer and it dipped a little. See that? Then real estate goes up here. It peaks and goes down a little bit just before the recession. But during the recession, it starts picking, well, it sort of stays flat. Well, it dips and then it picks up a little and it goes flat. So what the government's going to do is they're trying to, it's like a plane that's headed down and they're trying to, whoa, keep it from staying down too long, keep it going up. And that's what they're doing with monetary policy. They're making money easier to get. Here, a long period of, squigglies up and down, but mostly up through growth periods. And then we do have a recession here where it looks like at the beginning of that recession, it goes down. So that one, I was around for that one. That was before the big recession, but that's not what was happening here in DC. By the way, this is the federal, the federal perspective. So this is real estate values around the country. I was here for for this recession. Real estate was going up in the early 2000s in DC. Even that was a dot-com bubble recession. This here is the so-called Great Recession, and this is the one that's on a lot of our minds and hearts when we worry about recessions, because it had such a big drop, but it was also, look how wide it is. It's about the longest recession we've got on this chart. The gray bar is as wide as any of these gray bars are. And then it's almost so narrow you can't really tell what happened there. Looks like just before the recession, real estate was up. It did a quick drop and shot up. Once we realized that that pandemic induced recession was terrible, but real estate actually was more popular during the pandemic, not less, as borne out by this just straight up shot here. So, you know, A, in general, real estate does fine during recessions. B, because of an actual recession or a fear of a recession, trying to avoid a recession or deal with one, the Fed's going to drop rates, which helps real estate. And C, I'm here to tell you that in DC, we are extra recession proof. I wish I had one of these charts just for DC, so that this blue line would be the DC value rather than the median United States value. And you'd see an even better picture. Nick started this meeting off by saying that at the beginning of this meeting, he said that DC real estate goes down last when things go down and goes up first when things go up. So another way to say that is, if you could imagine floodwaters, and you're looking at DC like higher ground, and you know, so here's this house on higher ground, and you know, the floodwaters are going to reach it or not, but they're going to hit the lower real estate first, flood over the lower real estate, and then they may reach higher ground, they may not, but even if they do, once they leave the higher ground first. So it's literally like that. I remember in DC hearing about, in the financial crisis, all these cities and towns and states getting whacked, and some of them states where you would think like real estate is like invulnerable, like it nothing could do anything to it, like California. That's how I used to think of California. California got whacked, Arizona, New Mexico, Nevada, Florida. These states were just getting decimated, and it felt like, you know, when someone says they're going to punch you, you know, and you're like, all right, go do it, you know, get me. And when would it finally come and hit DC? I felt like I was in that position like forever. Finally, oh, okay, this is it. Okay. Oh, what? They're down 30-40%. We're only down like 7-8 over here. Not so bad. And then boom, it's gone. Huh, things seem to be better here. And I'm still reading in the paper. Florida, Nevada, California, all this carnage and suffering out there, massive percentage losses out there, double digits years later after it had left here. Like, we've been through that over here. It's done, over, and it's still happening in these other places. So, you know, it's not only a matter of duration, but also severity, frequency. It doesn't happen that often. Severity isn't that bad, you know. Doesn't last that long when it happens. And why do you guys think that is?
Sorry, my hand was up. When you showed the graph, though, that idea that recession, that real estate only goes up during recessions, didn't hold true before 1980. So if you look at 1980, 1975, on the graph that you just showed, you saw that real estate actually either went up or aggregately kind of stayed the same. So maybe what we're experiencing now is, you know, from this particular time period, if you zoom into the graph and you look at 1970, 1975, though, and 1980, you see those numbers going up. And even a little after 1980, you see that number going up. And it seems like, especially with the current pricing in real estate, that everything is going up. It can't go up forever. I mean, at some point there's, you know, there is we're hitting that affordability wall. So maybe what we're experiencing is at this moment, but we don't necessarily know if that's going to be a mantra that's going to last forever.
You know, I remember to go off of, you know, well, things, what must go up must come down. But I could tell you, my goal was to make $100,000 out of college, and you know, 100,000 is no longer 100,000. You know, how many people are making, you know, the 100K goal, or a millionaire? How many millionaires are there? Now it's billionaires. So I think my girl is 2 years old. I don't know how much she's going to need to make, but I'm assuming it's a lot more than 100,000.
Yeah, I would challenge you to say it can't keep going up. I think its nature is to go up. And then there's exceptions, periods maybe where there's an exception to that. But salaries will go up, inflation will continue, cars will cost more, milk will cost more as well. I think that the flattest period, to your point, how do you say your name? I see OCO.
Ology, that's just my acronym. It's just my initials. But
What's your
it's Ology.
pardon? What's your name?
Ology.
Ology. Yeah, so I think the most flatness that we're really seeing is like those 10 years there. Where, well, does it say the number? Oh, okay. So it goes from 18 to like almost 26, and then it goes down a little bit. So from 18 to 26 is like, I don't know, that looks like 7 years or so. And that's a lot on a percentage basis, So it doesn't take a lot of movement when the number's that small to be very large on a relative basis. And then I think you see here, here's where it seems to pick up a consistent, even faster trajectory, I guess, on an absolute dollar basis, which on a percentage basis is going to be smaller as the value gets higher. So it looks like the flattest period is this period, but you try to say it's flat, or I try to say it's flat, and still you're going from 26, you go to 26 all the way from 18 just about. So, you take 18 and you divide it by 26, that's a pretty high percentage. That's a 70% increase in, maybe like 7 years.
Yeah, I guess the point I'm making is that the periods where you see the recession and property prices going down, that's only circa 1980, since 1980. Prior to that, you didn't see that phenomenon. That's the point I'm making.
Yep.
Oh, I got you. The rapid increase.
You don't see that otherwise. So yeah.
Price went up to 10%, right? So I wanted to pull up a graphic, and I'll find it.
Nick, was there someone you thought we wanted to speak? I may have missed that someone had their hand up.
No, but maybe we could go around, kind of start the presentation
Let's do it.
and roll from there. All right, let me share my screen. Present.
There is one other thing, though, I want to point out. Can I do one more thing before we finish?
Yeah.
I just do want to point something here. So, and this goes to the points that were just being discussed about the sustainability of price increases. And this is particular to DC, although we have a problem with inventory around the country. Look at this, folks. March of 23, there is 64% more inventory than there was in March of 22. Okay, so there's 64% more supply this March compared to last March. That increase brought us up to 1.1 months of supply. And did you know that a low supply environment is when we have 3 to 4 months? Did you all know that? 3 to 4 months is low inventory, as in like the seller should be feeling very confident, and it's kind of hard for the buyer. So we had a 64% increase from last March to this March, bringing us up to 1 month of supply. So the punchline is supply is dangerously low, problematically low, crisis level low. Normally, what would happen when you have supply that's that low is pricing would shoot up in a way that is very, very bad for buyers for sure, probably society in general. The reason that with 1 month of supply, we do not have values shooting up is because demand is down. And the reason demand is down is because interest rates are up. And the thing that's happening, like every day that we go into this spring, the consensus is going to grow that interest rates will go down. Okay? And with that consensus, more people and the good weather will jump into the market to purchase, which will add to demand. When you factor in that increased demand that we anticipate against this radically low supply, you got a problem. It's going to be very, very competitive. So maybe demand will increase enough that during this spring, it'll get out of hand. Maybe not. Maybe it'll take a little longer for demand to increase that much due to people's growing optimism that rates are going to go down. Certainly, it's the case that when rates do go down materially, which is anticipated, then a lot of people will jump in. So Nick and I have talked about this a lot. There are 3 stages that we've been looking at lately. Last fall, when lots of people were leaving the market because rate shock was causing them to leave. Then there was going to be the future stage 3, which is into the future. We're not there yet, which is rates have dropped significantly, and now lots of people are jumping back in. We are right now in stage 2, that in-between stage, where rates haven't really dropped materially yet, but there's a growing belief that they will. And so early actors are getting in now because they don't want to be getting in when rates have already dropped. So they're willing to buy a house under better terms now, buy an investment property in better terms now, with a mortgage they don't love, with the growing expectation that they will refinance soon into a better mortgage. So we're in stage 2 now. This is the early actors stage. Stage 3, if you were thinking about being an early actor, but you don't jump in till 3, you're going to be going, damn it, why didn't I just, I let my worries overtake my logical mind. I think that's how this is going to play out. I've been saying this for months and months and months about these 3 stages, trying to understand when it was that it looked like we were entering stage 2. And I'm here to report to you today, I think we're entering stage 2 now. Anyone have any questions about that? Either you completely agree or you completely disagree.
I personally agree. I think that as rates, to your point, when rates go down, you're going to see a feeding frenzy, and it's just going to push, elevated price levels higher. Because there's been a lot of pent up demand, and there will continue to be until we see, a downward pressure on rates. So I completely agree.
Yeah, it's hard. It's very hard. Because
When's
And you
the
also
time to buy real estate?
And you also have the dynamic of the millennials and the Gen Zers turning of age and forming families, which is also going to add to the dimension of demands. Gen Zers now, or the millennials, the older millennials, are in their 40s, or in their late 30s. They're married, they're having kids. They're at the stage now where they're forming families, and they're wanting a single family, 3-bedroom, 2-bath home. So
Yeah, family formation is huge, and there's just not enough supply. People are getting older. They're multi-generational homes.
you also have the dynamic of people wanting to age in place and not wanting to move necessarily. So even yes, there are homes out there, but a lot of people want to hold on to their homes, and they may want to, extend those homes to their kids or their grandkids, or just age in place in general. So you have a lot of stock that's not going to move.
yeah, I'm very curious about that aspect of the market. How much um, the fact that people are locked into good low rates is going to keep them in their homes.
Yeah,
And the degree to which people, reluctantly let go of that great rate and move on because they need a bigger house versus change their decision of what they would have done to meet their needs because of the feeling that this is too good to give up, this interest rate. Maybe it's good for okay, here's one bet I'd make. It's good for general contractors. It's got to be, because more people probably ought to build an addition, right? And hang on to that house than buy a new one than would have been true in the past. Probably something like that.
So I'm going to transition, finding deals as it's getting harder and harder to do so. But I think there is an opportunity zone where there are people that just can't take care of their homes. Like you said, Ochi, I think, said that people are staying in their homes. So I am seeing a little bit more foreclosures, nothing crazy. A lot of distressed properties, but there are a lot more people going after them. So where are you finding the deals? And that's what we're going to be going through today. So thank you all for joining. Grid is a network, so we're one of, I think, 30 chapters around the United States. So if you haven't done so, you can find deals. Deals are posted to the Facebook group. You do have to request access. It is not invite only, but just say that you're a member of the DC Grid community. Deals are posted here. And just to say, we are not gurus. We are a group of real people doing real deals. So we're not, just putting our finger in there. Carlos and I are selling actively. We are realtors in practice. Carlos heads a team that sells 10 to 15 homes. I'm his partner, and we just so happen to be buy hold investors. I have 2 multi-units on the hill, and Carlos has a rental portfolio and gets up on his soapbox to evangelize others. And that's what we hope to do here, is to include you guys.
10 to 15 a month, some years 20.
Sorry, 10 to 15 a month, and some months 20. So our mission is to connect, learn from, and collaborate with like-minded people like you guys, build wealth, and create impact through real estate. So please use the chat function. Please put your information down, what you're looking for. Chris, Mark, Sarah, I'm seeing some new faces here. So please put your information down here to network. And for people that are, I see Cherie here again. Please share your information. Cherie is a great lender that hopefully we could do some business with. And we're all experience levels, so we're all lifelong learners. I was talking to a Grid member today, and he went from a house purchase to a BRRRR strategy. Now he's doing a condo conversion, so one step after the other. Oh, wow. So our vision is to impact millions. So we have 1,000 communities, 2,000 leaders, 10,000 people financially free, and 100,000 millionaires and 1 million members. So we talked a little bit about ourselves. We're running this group again to kind of create a community of growth, to support each other, and ultimately do deals, buy some real estate. So if you wanted to, this is a platform for the next 5 to 10 minutes to introduce yourself. Let's go like where you're living, or what are you doing now, and what do you want to do, get out of Grid. Wes, you want to start us off?
Yeah, sure. So I live in Kingstown, Alexandria. I'm new to investing. I've been going to a lot of the Grid events. I've also go to District Invest run by Russell Brazil, and I've largely been doing a lot of realtor outreach or agent outreach, and then I've also been driving for dollars around the Fairfax County area, primarily looking in Springfield for flip opportunities. And then I also am looking to participate in a couple syndication deals here in Alexandria.
Nick, you're muted.
Oh, thanks. Sorry, I'm confusing buttons. Is this your first syndication deal, Wes?
Yes, it is.
Nice. Okay. Well, happy to help collaborate. We have a lot of grid investors that I can connect you with that have syndicated deals. And syndication, all it means is borrowing money and getting a company set up, right? It's a complex name, but it's basically taking the 20% or 30% what you need down for a deal and getting it from someone else. I forgot what the name is. It's using someone else's money. So we have a lot of those people, and you pay them back. You say, hey, man, this is backed by real estate. And the number one thing to that, Wes, is having a good mentor. So it probably won't be me, but I do have some good mentors that either you pay them or some sort of arrangement so you could pitch yourself to syndicate a deal. Because that's the biggest thing when syndicating is having a good reputation.
Yeah, there's a couple of people around the Alexandria area that I talk to now that are leading some syndications right now, and they're currently looking for others as they have a couple multifamilies that are coming in.
Nice. How much are they looking for?
I think most of the places are between two. I think one was 2.5 and the other was 3.2. So they're looking between like 500 and 700.
Oh, okay. I don't have that money, but please put your information down. If it's a good deal, we're always looking to invest. Usually I invest like 50,000 or 20,000. Anybody else want to share? I see Sean. Sean, you want to share? I don't know your position. Mark?
Hi. Yeah, I'm right here.
Go ahead. Hey, Sean.
How's it going?
Good. Tell us a little bit about yourself, your company, what you're trying to get into.
Yeah, so I'm my background is in some home building. I'm a project manager. I have been for 7. Construction manager, project manager. And I recently, in the past month, started my own company. And so reaching out, networking with anybody, first job going, if anybody needs a contractor, or working on making connections with realtors, lenders, anybody. So that's why I'm here.
Nice. And what does this company do?
So I have my background's in whole new home construction, so from ground up and everything. The whole management of the build process, from getting permits to the blueprints, all of that stuff. I've also got a background in renovations and managing contracts and working with subcontractors. So bidding out jobs and doing any renovation work that needs to be done. I've worked for architects, coordinated with homeowners, designers, anybody.
Got it. And you're looking to help, be a GC or
Yes,
what?
yeah. So I'd be a GC, and then
Like your
also,
primary client would be someone that has too many jobs or is looking for someone to help manage.
yes, correct. Or if I
Please
have
put your information down. I have developers that need your help.
Excellent, great.
That are scaling too big for their kind and need someone like you.
Great. Yeah. And then I also have, if there's anyone that needs or has a client that's looking to build a fully custom home, then I can do that process as well. And gathering the infrastructure right now to be able to shoot out quick bids and have my baselines for selections and finishes and everything. So
Awesome. Thanks, Sean.
Yep.
Does Sean work in Manassas?
I can. So I'm based out of Old Town Alexandria is where I'm living right now. And so I'm right now. So just so everybody knows, I'm still waiting to hear. I've already completed and passed all of the licensing requirements. I'm just waiting to hear back the approval from the state, and that takes a long time. So it's been about almost 3 weeks since it's been submitted, and so the turnaround's usually 30 to 60 days from what they tell me. So once I have licensing, then I'll be ready to go on anything.